just to kind of get into the swing of things. How are things going with you?
I've lost the will to live. I've got no soul.
So
You know.
every other Saturday.
Is it still Saturday? Yeah, like it must be. I feel better. I feel better on the Lord's Day. You know, it's a couple hours away.
All the bridges were really packed with people, so I couldn't jump off of it without ruining
Yeah.
somebody's day.
You know, if God takes a holiday, I might as well take a holiday from my problems. You know. Yeah.
Anyway, just to set the landscape, 2006 YouTube. Back in the days, you kind of remember vaguely, I'm sure. Wild West, anything was possible because this is mainly of like dance videos, 80s cartoon uploads, things like that. You know, anybody could upload anything because no one was getting sued yet. Pretty fun time back in the day. Vast majority of the most popular videos were usually things that were like satire or what they thought was satire. Is usually just like people screaming at the camera and then saying like, "Hey, I was just kidding." Regular users uploading their thoughts a lot. Just the extension of what we had back then, things like LiveJournal and Etsy, not Etsy, Easy Journal and stuff like that. Just everybody just recording it, basically reading as they went.
Yeah, I'm surprised that blog is still a term that people know today. I thought, writing an online journal would have been gone by now.
You underestimate every generation has guys like me and you who we believe our thoughts are so incredibly important that we have to log it to ourselves. And and you save everything just in case someday you do make it and you die. You know what I mean? Then you could be like, oh, hey, I heard there was a Brett Baker and we found a brilliant essay next to his body, that kind of thing. But I was 100% the dude who was saving shit from way back, freshman year, sophomore year of high school, thinking someday it's going to be not worth something, but someday whatever brilliant thing I had, usually about how much I hated jocks, would come in handy in the future. Never fucking did.
Your blog was a lot like Batman. One day my enemies will share my dread. Bats scare me. Jocks scare me.
Yeah. They just over and over and over again. And then for some reason, just the Metallica logo. People were putting on movies, people on TV, bravely putting themselves on Front Street. Just like you were saying, they were blogs. They were a little better. Each one had a very specific audience in mind. I don't know if you remember back in the day, but basically there was no cleverness. It was this is my video about how much I hate dad, and then there'd be 10 parts about, and there would be oh, okay, this is actually about something else. No, I just hate dad for 3 hours. I miss that shit, honestly. Back then, it got enough notoriety that there was this quaint little article in the New York Times in 2006 where they basically described the phenomenon as skinny guys with moppy hair and modest houses with loud adolescent messages. If that's not me and fucking you, I don't know.
Isn't that how they described the Beatles at one point in time?
That's how the New York Times described everybody. Weird. Now that I've Googled that phrase, they describe the Taliban that way.
Bob Dylan.
Yeah, Bob Dylan. Putin.
Kurt Cobain.
Yeah, exactly. So we're here to talk about Gamelife. Gamelife was one of, if not the first major video game review website or review video site, basically. They did it before everybody else. They started off as basically filmed in a basement in Boston by one dude and his best friend. Episode 1 introduced the host and the leader of the Gamelife crew. You kind of saw him really quick. He's this kind of chubby, bespectacled dude named Andrew Rosenblum. Rosenblum is what happens when a marshmallow gets microwaved and it just expands triple in size. And he's great. I love that he's the host because there's no other place where that dude goes, I'm going to be the guy in front of the camera. I'm going to be the guy.
Leader.
Well, that's the thing. And you see that through his eyes. He is sweating in anticipation with every syllable he's about to say. And it's incredible. Anything really complicated, like Ocarina of Time, you see him just pouring sheets of sweat and he's shaking, but he gets through it. And if he gets through it, I get through it. You know what I mean? I love that man. Not making fun of him. Me and you were both drama nerds in high school. We were on stage a lot. Honestly, if we had half that kind of confidence, we'd probably be doing something cool as a living, quite frankly.
No, we just found ourselves at the coffee shop.
Well,
That's
yeah, at the coffee shop, surrounded by other people just like us who really truly believe that our live journal was special.
just typing into a
Uh,
laptop and looking for anyone with a printer.
well, to be fair, I had the laptop. Um, Everybody else had pen and paper, with the exception of our friend Arhel Brown, rest in peace. By his side, his version of Arhel Brown, his version of the hipster best friend, is a guy named Alex Lazar. Alex Lazar, I don't know if you saw his picture. Very thin, very skeletal guy. He loves standing next to Andrew because it's the only place he ever feels comfortable. That thin veneer of cotton from his Hollister sweater is the only thing separating him from like madly passionately kissing Andrew Rosenblum. Like he's you can tell he will lose oxygen if you separate them from the room. And I love him too because I've been that guy who I'm like, I will have a lot of strength and confidence if one of my friends is standing next to me. If they're gone, I cannot breathe. So I've been that dude a million times, and that's who he is. Those first episodes, they're both scared, they're both nervous sounding, but there's also kind of an excitement. And I don't know. Obviously, you've never heard of them. They were introduced to me from MTV. MTV originally plucked these guys out of obscurity, said, "You guys are going to be the face of who we consider to be nerds," and they're not wrong. Who are going to know about video games and give us some, I guess.
Wait, like the actual MTV or like MTV2 or MTV? You know how MTV, during the,
Oh
you know,
well, it's still MTV. It's MTV the Ocho. No, it was MTV too. They were, but you know what I mean. Like it's still MTV. You could still slap the shit on a resume. Fuck you, Baker.
well, no, I mean, there was the main channel, and they knew that only preteen pregnant moms were watching MTV1, and then MTV2 was kind of for you and me dorks.
He's obviously on MTV too for me and you.
MTV2 had wonder shows, and
Yeah,
that's why I
and
watched
they
that.
had what would eventually be an almost school shooter. So we'll get to that in a minute. So first episode, you can see Andrew just starting to come out on his own, just like we were saying, behind his eyes, that fear, that panic, that excitement. He talks basically throughout the entire episode, pretty much separating himself as this is going to be my show. Alex Lazar has what they call that then they never saw him again look. That little wistful like thing at the end of every unsolved mysteries.
Saved by
Nowadays
the
it's very
Bell.
Saved by the Bell.
No.
At the end of the Sandlot, he's the one who got lost into the '60s and nobody ever
Right.
saw him again. He's that guy. It's not
Bertram.
so much milk
Yeah.
carton as it is that almost like he was a dream.
Right.
Like I had a friend once, I think his name was Alex. He's that guy. I'm sure his driver's license, he looks like a normal dude, but when you watch him play his Nintendo DS while like cradling himself for warmth, he reminds me of a lot of those disappearing kids. He does. I don't know how he survives in this world, other than the fact he's probably a millionaire by now.
So wait to this day. So I mean, that's kind of a win in this situation. I hope.
You know what? Here's the thing about Alex. His destiny to me, man, is that he was going to be a half-remembered story you tell your kids to warn them about talking to strangers. Like, he's going to be the thing where, like, you're going to add in other, like, stories you have to remember about serial killers and witches and shit and be like, here's why you don't, accept candy from people you don't know. You will disappear like that Aslan. It is what it is. I'm sorry. He's gone.
He's just talking to me like I'm in the hospital. We did everything we could.
That's a good thing. He disappeared. We did everything we could. I like the way you said that. When you rewatch the first and second episodes, they're basically filmed on the handheld camera. Everything is shaking. And that's because Andrew, in his infinite wisdom in the beginning, had Alex, the skinniest, weakest host, to hold the camera. Now, third episode or so, they get another guy who is this beanstalk ogre named David Cohen. David was definitely the brute of the team. He brought a special energy. I don't know if you'd really call it like a stabilizing energy. You could tell like he really wanted to do well, but it balanced the crazy dictatory Andrew, the constantly shaking Chihuahua Alex, and here you have ogre. I'm biting the heads off chicken.
So,
David Cohen.
so could you say he brought a jolly energy? Eh?
I don't know if it's so much a jolly man as it is he knew he could kick both their asses and just take the show. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he also needed somebody to open doors for him. We'll throw it that way.
Okay.
No lighting whatsoever in any of these episodes. So when Andrew talks about like game graphics and mentions anything specific, like the color of a character's outfit or anything like that, all you see is this gray void where the graphics are supposed to be. And there's something kind of nice about that, since early YouTube video coding was hard, and these are old school like digital cameras. There's no editing, so like it's just blackness and shaking and fear, and you recognize words like Zelda, and if you're me, you fucking love it. Everything is in because you can't delete anything, so everything is gold and hot garbage at the same time. There's no distinguishing corn from cob, is what I'm saying. You swallow the whole fucking thing. It's charming.
God, I hate corn. I don't know about this.
So personally for me, they became viral because of guys like me. And part of the reason they became viral because of guys like me is because I loved the fact that they're the nerds that, for the grace of God, me and maybe even you could have been. You know what I mean? Like they were the nerds that if we didn't discover beer and cigarettes, we could have easily been them, trying to put on shows for our own little handheld cameras, even before you do.
What did we have that made us different? What
What did we have?
dignity?
Is we had a little no, for real. What we had was a little thing called shame. Neither me or you would ever put ourselves out in public to talk about Code Veronica or Metal Gear Sons of Liberty. We could never fucking do it. These guys could, at least these first three.
It's called Guns of the Patriots.
Is that what it's called? I don't remember. The only thing I know, man, is Andrew's body looks like he was trapped inside of a 1970s homemade robot costume with like using springs and stuff that just come out of a cardboard body. That's him. After the first couple episodes, Gamelife became pretty popular, quite frankly. They began to receive audition tapes from other game reviewing sites. Everybody's trying to get in. Some of the cats that applied were actually some pretty famous dudes, guys who ended up starting different gaming companies. They'd rejected Screw Attack. They literally, so here are guys who are obviously were going to become big in their own right. Where they rejected them and they took on two other personalities who had their own little YouTube shows. One guy, very spastic dude, crazy energy, a guy named Jeff Mendocino. And then Melissa, whose last name I cannot find for the life of me for a good reason, who was like the first, I didn't know how far back this went, but she was the first instance of girl plays obscure games, girl is good at games, internet decides that she's terrible. I don't know what that is. And she's the first person I've ever seen. And this is 2006. And you're seeing her play like those Japanese drum games, things that back then you'd have to import. And she's talking about that stuff. And in those same like YouTubes at the time, people were just all over the place saying like, you can't really play games. Oh, you're just there because you're pretty. It was fucked up back then. You know what I mean? It's nuts.
That's ridiculous, man. It's like it's Anchor Man, not Anchor Lady.
So this spastic motherfucker who looks like he's masturbating in front of Contra, that's Jeff. He's punching the air. His hair is all fucked up. He's crazy skinny. There's a part of him where he has a fake nosebleed. You know what I mean?
Okay, that's disturbing.
And they look at him and they go, you are our guy. You're coming to Gamelife with us. Very adorable. Really good gamer. Plays stuff you've never seen before. I mean, this stuff is expensive. You know, the Japanese drumming stuff. That stuff that you couldn't just get. This is pre-Guitar Hero and stuff like that. Obviously, she should be destroyed. Clearly,
she knows too much.
Yeah, exactly. She can't be pretty and have and have electricity. So by the fourth episode, there are now 5 Gamelife hosts. they get flown to E3
Oh well.
by Electronic Gaming Monthly to conduct interviews and provide
I,
commentary.
I had a subscription for EGM when I
I
was.
had a subscription too. It was a magic moment because me and you are sad. So I remember every EGM April Fools. I remember like my favorite covers. I remember reading that shit so often that the covers would break off and I would restaple them.
Oh God,
Right?
dude! The first one I had was on the cover was Cloud. It was a Final Fantasy VII issue.
I would love to tell you the first one. I don't remember, but it was that's how far back it went. Like
But
I
yeah, but
remember.
Final Fantasy VII is the first one I had. I'm like,
Oh,
Jesus.
well, I didn't subscribe to GamePro, but I don't know if you remember GamePro.
Oh
So
yeah, I
that was
remember GamePro. Yeah.
so that was obviously they had their own like somebody would hand illustrate their stuff, and I remember EGM came out and GamePro had like whatever. My EGM had like this slick Mortal Kombat thing, and I'm like, oh, that's like GamePro's for babies. I'm going for EGM with Arrow the Acrobat. It's like on the cover jumping through a cannon because that's for young adults like me. So
Well, GamePro was smaller, much smaller. It only had a certain amount of pages. I remember EGM was like double the size. So it's like, well, I can read a GamePro in like freaking in a grocery store hella fast. You know what I mean? Or
yeah,
wherever I
yeah, yeah,
was.
yeah.
You know, I can read that shit quick. I'm not going to pay $12 a month for that. You know, or
Exactly.
get my parents to pay that much. You know, it's like parents are going to be like, oh, we want an actual thick fucking magazine. We're not going to just buy you a 7-page Game Pro every
Well,
month.
people forget, but that shit was expensive back then. It was like
Oh,
$8.
oh
You
yeah.
know what I mean? Like, I didn't dawn on me until years later, but like, paying like I don't know, let's say it was like 6. That's a shit ton of money for a magazine that you just flip through in like 20 minutes.
Remember when information, as nerdy as it was, cost a lot of money?
No, no bullshit. I had a paper route, and I remember having to rubber band papers at like 4 in the morning before I could hand them out on my bicycle. And I look back on it now, and I know a lot of people get wistful for this shit. I don't care. Fuck that. That shit sucked. It sucked then. You know, I don't. I know people like the tactile touch of reading their news, and I know people get mad because in this 24-hour news cycle, like we were constantly getting bad information. But fuck that. Like I don't. I'm not even kidding.
Dude, I was
But
watching AI. Remember that really horrible Spielberg movie because it was a Stanley Kubrick movie that
yeah, and
Spielberg.
Kubrick died.
Yeah,
That's
Kubrick died, but Spielberg still wanted to make it anyway, and it just didn't work because it's not his vision, you know. But there's a line in it where Jude Law, he was like the sex robot. He says, "There's nothing more expensive in this world than information," and that line has always stayed with me because it's like now I could be sitting in my underwear at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I can type in "Why do farts smell?" and now I know.
Well, here's the thing. I can literally be sitting in my underwear going, man, I remember Game Pro like reviewing Mortal Kombat for the Sega Genesis higher than I thought they did. And then I go into their electronic archives and I'm right. And then I cheer myself for being right, having a memory I had 20 years ago.
Not
Oh,
nearly as satisfying as you think.
yeah. um, so I would love to get back on track. They EGM, they go ahead, they pay for them to go to E3. They go, here are 5 dudes, they're getting popular on YouTube, and it's the first time they all meet in person. It's incredibly smooth, surprising everybody's distinct personality gels in a cohesive unit bonded by their unique talents. I'm fucking with you, man. Check this shit out.
Yeah, guys, what's going on? This is Jeff Mendocino. I am in Los Angeles E3 right now. My mom brought me to Disneyland, but I'm over here because I beat it all. I beat it all, and now I'm here at E3. Well, that's my E3 interview. And now, let's go back to Andrew and the rest of them back in the gamers. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Hey, we're here too. And look, there's Melissa over there too. Hi, guys.
Well, I guess since the whole gang's here, let's all go film some stuff, and you can watch this special edition of Gamelife at E3.
Jesus.
Don't tell me that's not beautiful. Alex and his goon David are right behind him and are completely caught off guard by the mere presence of Melissa. And it's beautiful because Melissa is a normal human being. She just simply and cheerfully says, "Hi, guys." And everybody but Jeff, the only man at E3 who clearly fucks, immediately turns away without greeting her. They don't make eye contact whatsoever. And Alex does what was my patented move of staring at the floor and staring at his own rubbing hands in a quiet prayer.
The only thing I could think was, Melissa, what are you doing here?
True to form, just bites the head off a chicken. So like it's brilliant. I've seen that scene a half a dozen times, and it gets better every time. If you go back, check out Andrew, and he does not know what to do, not with his hands. I get when you don't know what to do with your hands. He doesn't know what to do with his entire terrible frame. So obviously, if you do have the chance, man, watch the entire thing. It's long. It's like maybe a half. Oh, there it is. It's 35 minutes. It's a little too long, but it gets goofier and it gets goofier.
You threaten me with a good time.
It's also kind of a glimpse, to be real, is what makes them so compelling to me way back then. Because I watched everything in between getting drunk with you guys. So like it's literally like, and here's the thing, my quiet shame. Nowadays, I'd be like, dude, you got to check out this fucking thing called Gamelife. It's so fucked up. Back then, I'm like, there is no way in hell I'm telling anybody I've seen this. So,
how times change, you know?
Oh my god!
I have Nickelback. I've downloaded some before. Who cares, you know?
I re-downloaded $3 Bill, y'all. You know what I mean? I re-downloaded a Limp Bizkit CD just to listen to 2 songs.
Great fucking album, I'm gonna tell you. Great
Better than you
album.
remember, honestly. So
Absolutely.
Alex, David, and Andrew are still fun to watch. They represent that hopeful nerd culture. Jeff is this huge ball of energy the whole time, and Melissa is the only person, no bullshit, who can legitimately conduct an actual interview. The very thing EGM flew them out to do. She's the only one who can do it. They're great. There's an alternate universe of Gamelife where they all eventually become outside of Xbox or something like that. Obviously, they can't. You'll find out why. Melissa interviewed the Devil's Reject era Danny Trejo, and the rest of the Gamelife crew are just kind of doing their own thing, and it's funny, it's nerdy, it's everything you think it's going to be. The downside is this is probably their height. Andrew makes this classic mistake that a lot of early YouTubers do. He kind of knew he had get all this hype going on. He knew he was going to get all this market. I mean, he's a nerd. He's planning 1,000 steps ahead, not really enjoying the moment. He didn't really have any of the money or knowledge to get there. He just knew he wanted to get there, right? More power to him. Given those circumstances, though, you would think someone would want to stop and kind of hone their craft a little bit, kind of learn how to do a fucking interview without sweating through it. Not that guy. Andrew was not the dude who was going to fake it till he made it. You know what I mean? Somewhere in 2006, towards the end, MTV Context Gamelife offers them a basically minute-long sections in MTV2 that they call. Okay, so I'm going to let you guess. They're called Gamelife. It's MTV2. What would you call them in the earliest 2000s to give them an extreme MTV sounding name? Just take a guess.
This is your Nerd Minute.
No. Way too classy.
Way too classy?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is the early 2000s, so we haven't gotten...
2006, 2007, yeah.
So we haven't gotten PC yet?
No. No, we're still kind of the X2. You know, we're still kind of saying suck it, but Shawn Michaels isn't doing the X anymore.
Okay, homos with controllers.
Ooh, close.
Oh, I mean... That's not me saying that, but that's
no.
the culture at the time.
They called it the G-hole.
Oh, my God.
You were so close. MTV obviously wants to gain your money, but wants to remind the community that you're watching lame nerds. You haven't quite gotten there yet, but that's a really good fucking guess. it
it
became one of
probably
the
exists,
oh,
or
I'm sure.
existed, and
So,
hopefully past tense, it's gone.
well, here's the thing. I mean, obviously the G hole doesn't exist anymore, but at the time, it was one of the first web shows to ever go from YouTube to mainstream TV. Like it was not. Nowadays, it would be a huge deal. Back then, it was just like fuck it, just pull these 5 losers and throw them on television. So this time period, believe it or not, gave Andrew, our fearless leader, a lot of stress. um, so, and his vision for gamer life, for his vision for game life, kind of got a little wonky. In 2018, Jeff Mendocino did an interview, and he basically said that Andrew wanted to take the show from where it was, this kind of fun, purposely amateur show with friends, into like a higher production value, almost like a corporate show, which is not who he is at all. Like you have Spastic Jeff, you have Goon David, you have Melissa, the only one who could conceivably actually do a real show. You have Alex, who's going to disappear. And then you have Andrew, who is maniacal, but nerd maniacal. You know what I mean? But this is not mainstream TV.
Just love
And
that.
he had
Vanish is eminent.
well, here's the thing. At its best, you might have gotten like a very low rent version of X Play. You know what I mean? You might have, and that's if you reined everybody in and you replaced 3 of the 5.
Yeah, but
in any case,
X Play was a low rate version of X Play.
not surprisingly, yeah, Andrew fought David. Believe it or not, he fought the Goon, and David quit very briefly. David, from what I've seen, has never really contacted or never really given an interview about his time on the show. He just kind of, one, he probably can't string words together, but 2, it wouldn't surprise me if David felt loyalty to his best friend. His best friend kind of threw him out. You know what I mean? Like that's gotta hurt even back then.
Yeah.
Andrew fought Jeff too. Jeff, who at the time was 16, was still in high school. I mean, he looks like a spastic friend we have. You know what I mean? Like that's because he was. So like he's still in high school. He's working a normal gig. He wants to be a teenager. He does not give a shit about YouTube. None of this was money in his eyes. He just wanted to have fun. Didn't want to devote every waking moment to some goofy video game show. He had, he unsurprisingly quit too. Having no other ties to video games at all at that time. Never returned back to Gamelife. Andrew's ambitions were delusional, obviously, for the level of ability he had at the time. By episode 10, these guys got 10 fucking episodes. Andrew attempted to send 2 teams of 2 different people to launch console parties. And this is like the very beginning of the nerd culture acceptance. So the crowds are getting big. Like it's no longer like, just industry dudes going to E3. These are like just dude bros slowly starting to come out. All the lights were like blue or red. They were filled with people wearing like multiple layers because it's 2006. So nobody was having any fun, but everybody's like pretending that they're impressed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
By like some random thing. But it was cool at the time. I saw one video where a guy had a Pantera hat on at the Wii launch, and I'm just like, there's no way that guy knows what Nintendo is. There's no fucking way. Nor would a guy in a Pantera hat that doesn't even fit him be interested in the Wii. But it is what it is.
He probably had a PS2. Let's be honest here.
He probably
he got it for Call of Duty,
and he only played Sonic. You know what I mean? Somebody told him that there were $5 shots of Jägermeister, and there he went. So Andrew obviously sends 2 different teams. One team consisted of the remaining Gamelife hosts, David, Alex, and Andrew, and the other consisted only of Melissa because she's a girl.
Yeah.
I don't know why, right? The only female they send by herself because gross. So, but that's kind of a link into his ego. You just did E3 2006 as a unit. You proved to be so popular as this 5-man team that MTV gives you a legitimate spot on MTV2, but it's still a spot. And your first decision is to tell the only person who is actually good at interviewing without hyperventilating into a microphone to go fuck off by themselves. I don't even understand that. That's bad ego, obviously.
Well, what happened with you'd think that these guys, doing business with a TV cable channel, they would be given an agent or somebody who's going to tell them what they need to do to, at least maintain a one season partnership with MTV,
You forget how nerd egos work. It's Andrew going, I have this vision, and the vision is me.
Right.
The vision doesn't really need David, Alex, Melissa, or Jeff. So now that David half quit and came back, and Jeff full quit, I don't need them. So if you've got that mentality of I'm the smartest person in the room, the only person smarter than me is me, why would you listen to an MTV agent who doesn't even know what your show is? You know what I mean?
Crikey.
It's a kind of it's that special level of like, there cannot possibly be anybody who can figure this out if I haven't figured it out.
Oh, Yves. Okay.
Yeah, and you understand. Yeah, you get it. Everybody knows that guy for sure.
Yeah.
And then to add to the miscalculation, Andrew didn't know how to check his sound equipment, or just from the exact same kind of personality reason we just talked about, for some reason decided to tie his camera to a kite and let David throw it as far as he could because he's a goon. But every section featured the Gamelife crew in this like headache-inducing. I don't want to even play it. It's headache-inducing. The sound is terrible. Everything is flying way too fast. And then instead of taking these errors into like consideration the way like a normal person would, Andrew doubled down. He got himself a girlfriend again. Gross. And
wait a minute. Who was the first girlfriend he had?
Oh, I mean, his first girlfriend was Gamelife. His second girlfriend was a real girl that he met for real, who tolerated him for 3 dates, and then somewhere along the lines realized she could fuck much higher than the host of a 1-minute G-hole show, and kicked him to the curb. So again, taking what you will about Andrew, everything you've thought about this to this point, under the neckbeard code, she had to die for being a whore. April 16th, 2007, the same night of the Virginia Tech shootings, Andrew Rosenblum wrote an email to this ex-girlfriend.
No correlation, I hope.
Here's the thing. Of 3 dates, all right? Ex-girlfriend of 3 dates. Essentially like one Danny Trejo movie and like 2 early lunches in a well-lit place if she's smart. Andrew was also a student at Boston University at the time. So huge university. Everybody's very sensitive because a dude at Virginia Tech, a neckbeard, so to speak, shot up a bunch of people on a very large campus.
Yeah.
The idea of bullets is obviously very sensitive to everyone.
Physically only, of course.
So he writes this. This is verbatim. I'm going to bring a gun to your school and kill you and Kay, who was the name of one of the friends, and everybody you love. It's going to be Virginia Tech all over again.
Holy shit.
Virginia Tech, again, just happened. So he's referencing something that literally is in the public consciousness minutes ago. You know what I mean?
What is wrong with him?
Dude, straight up, all that's missing from him being a Batman villain is basically spelling the rest of his plan out to his girlfriend and then like building a bomb out of pumpkins. I don't even know. Like when you watch him on video, you will see what used to be that excitement and that nerdiness.
Some sort of hobgoblin.
No, for real. You see the unhingedness. Like when that old cliche about in comic books where the villain is drawn with 2 different size eyes to reflect how he can't see the world in his normal view. That's him. That is straight up him. MTV, the Dude Bro Network, naturally bitched out like pussies. No, I'm just kidding. They naturally cut their losses with Gamelife the moment the Boston police very necessarily arrested Andrew. We're not fucking around. Andrew, in that same letter, wrote, seriously, I'm just that demented. Killing people can change people's lives forever. The best is in the end when I pull the trigger on myself too. Gotham will be in flames. But it's the kind of thing where like,
this city deserves a better class of criminal, and I'm gonna give it to them. Oh no, the police are at my door. Never mind.
And the cherry on top of this fucked up Sunday is that Andrew, to his credit, pled not guilty. Because why the fuck not? I'm the smartest host I know. I'm the smartest cameraman I know. And fuck it, I'm the smartest lawyer I know. more power to him in some ways. Being that smart, got himself house arrested for 2 years. So, as far as I can tell, still resides in Massachusetts. I did a little digging. The only thing I could find on him was a Zoom meeting profile for a company called the Price Center, but it doesn't look like he still works there. So I'm not even entirely sure what he does anymore.
Should he be on the streets? I mean,
And here's the thing. Not surprisingly, he never tried to create a new show, probably because he would probably try to kill people at the show.
The OJ Show, starring Andrew.
I had one called the G hole. Now I need one called the bullet hole.
I don't know why, but he's in my head. He's like Harrison Ford in Blown Away. You know, it's like he's like, I came back from the Ireland, from the motherland, to blow up everybody in Boston. You know,
In my head, he's that meme where the dude is sitting next to like an ad of two people talking and having fun, and he's like smiling with them as if he's got friends. That's where like you slowly pull the camera back and like he's like filming himself on just his fingers making a screen. You know what I mean? Like I that's Andrew, man. I don't know what else to say about him. He's still alive. He's still running around in Massachusetts. I'm hoping he's a better person. He didn't serve any hard jail time, from what I can tell. They literally took him as, mind you, you can say what you want, privilege or whatnot, but I don't know if he actually had the ability to kill anybody. So it probably was the reason why he got house arrest as opposed to actual raiding his house and finding guns and stuff like that.
When you started telling me this story today, I did not, in my wildest dreams, thought it was going to go to mass shooter. I don't know. Maybe I should have seen it coming. I don't know. This is usually what they say. What I'm saying right now is usually what they say about actual mass shootings, though. I never thought he was going to. I never saw that as the outcome.
That's because you guys weren't watching in 2006. If you told me
it would have
Andrew Rosenblum shot, I was in SF State at that time, so I was a college student, very sensitive to the fact that college students can die. So
by bullets
in large quantities. So like at once, and it's one of those moments where I'm like, okay, so in hindsight, when you watch it now, you see the parts of that nerdy personality that we now attribute to someone on the fringe. At the time, you watch someone and you're laughing with them because I'm a huge dork. I gotta be a huge dork to watch fucking Gamelife, and you kind of relate to how goofy it all is. You watch it now with a new set of eyes, and you're like, oh, this kid was never gonna make it because he's insane. You know what I mean? Just completely out of his mind. And he's the one who, if he didn't, threaten a school, he's the dude who you might want, like, let's say he was a friend of ours. He's the guy we're worried about is one day going to shoot himself, right? He's the one you're worried about he's going to hurt himself, maybe not somebody else.
Well, it happens.
Yeah, it does, unfortunately.
More often than you want it to. So there was what was the name of there's a YouTuber that ended up killed his parents, and then tried to shoot up a school. I forgot his name though. But he did anime too. He was an anime.
He was an early
YouTuber.
guy too. He had an anime show.
Yeah, and he ended up killing his parents, and then they caught him before he was going to go into a school.
Mr.
Yes,
Anime.
yes, Trey Sessler. Mr. Anime.
Yeah,
Mr.
murdered
Anime.
his own family. That's right.
So. Shit, and he's after Gamer Life's time,
right? So we had a warning because he was 2012, so this is 6 years after Gamelife. Look at this dude, and then look at this dude, right? It's almost the same. I mean, he looks physically looks more like Alex, but that look is him. That look is him. That look is I'm the smartest man in the world is him. To move on. David and Melissa attempted to create a new gamer show, only this time, instead of David being regulated to goon duty, he actually tried to prove the YouTube world wrong, fading into obscurity. But at the same time, I gave him all the props. There's no footage that exists of him in his show with Melissa. But if you were going to pair the two, that's who I think you would have done. You would have done David, who is a good soldier, just wants to just do something that's not, I don't know, what goons do. And then Melissa, who can actually run a show, she now has her opportunity. Unfortunately, it didn't work. I can't find a single episode. I didn't even know that show existed. Eventually, Melissa would follow suit. Didn't want to do any other shows after, that brief moment of trying to make a new one. I honestly legitimately felt bad for her because, I mean, she really did receive all that typical hate the community gives female gamers back then. So it's a lot of that. She doesn't really play games. She just wants to be famous thing. And I can understand why even somebody who has some real talent goes, fuck that. You know what I mean? And the good thing about her was I guess she used to be a chef or something. So I'm sure somewhere along the lines still makes her money, still is doing whatever. Right. Jeff continued to hone his craft, eventually came back into the industry. Currently, he's listed as the owner of Ronin Rumble, which is a competitive fighting game tournament. And I haven't found it yet, but on his LinkedIn, it lists it being based out of Walnut Creek, California, Walnut Creek. Yeah, I didn't even know that. And then he's a director of gaming for HM Conventions in Florida. So he basically, instead of trying to make games, trying to be a host, did the ultimate thing is just like, I'm just going to run these tournaments because they're crazy popular.
I'm going to conquer both coasts.
Yeah, it's a rad idea that, somewhere along the lines, he ended up being smarter than everybody. And then being more prolific than the two, you will find a few interviews with him here and there, just about his experiences and like his observation of Andrew losing his grip on reality.
I mean, somebody's got to tell the story.
Yeah, right.
One of them has to be competent.
He's the one the Joker left alive. And then, last but not least, was Alec. And as we both know, he was never seen again.
Never heard from or seen again.
Exactly. So that's Gamelife. I didn't, like I said, aside from Andrew,
I hear he got really into the 60s.
Yeah. He got really into the 60s. Was never heard from again. I did find somebody that matched his information, working in Massachusetts, where he would have been from. Just a regular tech guy doing whatever he does. Who knows if he even tells anybody about Gamelife? I know, for me, I would, just because of the insanity that was Andrew. But I also get why somebody would look back on those days and be like, no, I'm not telling everybody I was best friends with a near mass shooter.
I mean, yeah, they're probably traumatic. I wouldn't want to think about them either. At the time, I was like, I could have been killed. This man could have shot me at any time.
Well, I mean, to be real with you, when you see the videos of the two of them standing together and how, like, there's just this invisible line, the thickness of a strand of hair that keeps them from deep throat kissing each other, I have a feeling there's a better ending for Alex somewhere.
He would have been one of the killers. Okay,
yeah,
I got you.
Yeah, either that or he would have been the reason Andrew never picked up a gun. He would have been a story at a wedding. So, and they would have been seen as heroes.
I'll never be able to thank you enough for the time and the place. I don't want to get into details. Thank you so much.
I would have been a different man. Alex would have been like Stefan from Family Matters, where he'd have like a goatee and shit, like he'd all be all buff. But yeah, so that's the end of Gamelife. Like I said, it's one of those stories that I wanted to touch on with you just because it's so early. If we're gonna talk about YouTube guys, especially guys that are in the realm of video games and stuff, they're a really interesting case, because you had what could have been a pretty decent start. You know what I mean? You would have looked back on them and be like, oh yeah, so and so is now on, I don't know, Outside Xbox, or so and so is, you might get excited seeing them around the way somebody does with the Angry Video Game Nerd. They just never got there because of how insane their one member was.
Wow.
Yeah, insane. I suggest going back sometime, man, watching a few of those here and there. I would skip around for sure because they're nuts. But when you go back, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Andrew isn't very good at what he does, but he's also the best at what he does.
Man, it's so painful to look at, but but it's also fascinating, super fascinating. Oh man, I'm actually kind of stoked to watch some of this. just